Motley saw while she was there the vestiges of slavery and the ills of segregation. That's how you put it in the book. She couldn't find lodging. She had to sleep in a rooming house for black people. White grocery stores refused to sell food to her as she was litigating that case. How did that experience shape Motley's view of her role in this fight for civil rights?
Well, the reality, Tanya, is that Motley experienced some of the same indignities as her client. And so even as she is working as a civil rights lawyer on
600m 전방 I-75N 도로의 위험 지역이 보고되었습니다. 현재 가장 빠른 경로를 계속 이용하고 있습니다.
NAACP Legal Defense Fund lawyers, many of whom were African American, who were seeking to kill Jim Crow.
You write about how Motley's foundational upbringing was really important in understanding her perceptions of Mississippi and her work more broadly. Her parents migrated to the U.S. from Nevis, which is a small island in the Caribbean Sea, and raised Motley and her siblings in New Haven, Connecticut. You write that her father taught his children that they were superior to Black Americans. And you know, this view of Black immigrants like Motley's father, the view that they had of Black Americans, we don't often speak openly about it. Can you describe it?
We don't, and yet we should. It's an important part of American history, which illustrates, as I conclude in my book, it turns out that Caribbean immigrants are immigrants, and in this country, immigrants often seek to define themselves against African American, and that is exactly what happened in Baker Motley's family. Her father and her mother, her entire family, were culturally conservative. They were happy to be a part of the British Empire. They thought of themselves as superior to African Americans, particularly those in the South, whom her father characterized as shiftless and as allowing themselves to be debased by Jim Crow. And what I conclude in the book is that either because of or in spite of her father's mischaracterizations of blacks in the South, Motley became their champion.
How did growing up in New Haven, Connecticut more specifically, also impact Motley's perception of race?
New Haven, Connecticut was a town with many immigrants. Motley thus grew up in an integrated environment. She attended integrated schools in the shadow of Yale University, where virtually all of her male relatives worked, including her father, who worked for a number of the Yale eating clubs, including Skull and Bones at one point. And the family, the father in particular, read himself into the privilege of his young white male charges, which is a reason that he could view himself as